there's a lot of stuff that you have to do to make a game. And some of it is honestly kind of fun and you're like, yes, I love making games, la-di-da-di-da. Other things are honestly kind of miserable. Looking at you,
what
3D modeling.
Okay, I was about to say, like, you're thinking about miserable and you think about me. It's like thinking about you and just the blanks. It's like, okay.
In this video, we want to tier list some of the different aspects of game development, the different things that you will be doing, and talking about one, how fun are they? Because hey, it doesn't matter how crucial something is if you absolutely hate your life doing the thing. And second of all, how much impact does it actually have on like the game and like the final result? Like you can spend 10 hours like optimizing a texture, but is it actually going to matter that much in the grand scheme of your game? Probably not. This is going to be an opinionated tier list. Let's get that out of the way first. You may absolutely hate programming. Thomas also hates programming, but has to pretend he likes programming because that's his job.
Everyone hates programming. And if you're now commenting you like it, you're lying to yourself and the entire world.
So I want to go through that, and I think we should start right at the beginning with getting the game idea.
I think most people find getting the idea fun. I think we can get out of the way. I honestly don't always like getting it.
I think coming up with ideas is fun. I think coming up with good ideas is hard.
But that's also why I don't know about you, but I think this should be really high.
I think this one as well. I think we're starting off with a banger.
Yeah, because honestly, this is something I learned to appreciate more after with the Unicycle Pizza Time. And that is the ID influences basically everything else that we're going to cover later on. And if your ID is already mediocre, or it's not unique enough, or doesn't have a good hook, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how good your programming is, how good anything is.
There are limits.
Bad idea.
Because for example, I think the ID for Unicycle Pizza Time was S tier. Our execution, probably like C or C tier, I would say.
Yeah, okay.
Result is a B or A tier game because the ID was just that good. So I think they should be high.
But I think there's the trap, of course, of overthinking the idea.
Yeah, of course.
And having 10 different game design documents and being too scared to commit onto anything. So that's why I wouldn't put it into like an S tier, because I think it can be very dangerous to only focus suddenly on coming up with the idea and then be like, oh, is this a good enough idea?
The thing is, in the end, the ID, you also have to execute on that ID. And that is basically all the other things we're going to cover. The ID itself is really important. And I can give you the ID of the game we want to make, for example, right now. And in a year, let's like come back together and we will have 2 different executions. That's why an ID is, just an ID. You don't have it like written in stone yet.
I would put it at an A tier.
Yeah, I would agree. I was thinking like A, or if we're feeling like a bit feisty, we could put it in S tier.
No, I don't think it's S tier because of that trap of only focusing. Because that's the thing, also, just having the idea won't make your game.
Yeah, and also if you're just an ID guy, like, look at the tier list, bro. There are like 9 other things.
Yeah, and
I didn't count them.
This is only a limited part, because I think there could even be a part 2 of this at a later point. This next one, it's a blueprints icon, but I'm talking about programming and code and mechanics and all of that in general. Whether that is you're doing C# or you're doing blueprints or you're doing some other drag and drop thing in Scratch for all I care. Programming is always going to be a pretty big part of the game. And I think, like I already said in the intro, I think this is a very polarizing one. Either you love it and programming is going to be the main thing you want to be doing to your game, or you hate the ever-living guts out of it and you're like, why do I have to program for my game? I just want to make art and make the game and not care about the programming at all. But I think programming is probably one of the more crucial things, that you can't really cheat by making a game without programming. Yeah, you have things like Bolt and like all of the drag and drop things, but I don't think you can make a game without at some point diving in and making a line of code.
Programming doesn't sell your game, art does. I think that's pretty straightforward. However, programming keeps a player in the game. Why? Because the programming is what defines all the mechanics. Your entire game. You can have the best art in the world, but if you're just generic X or Y game, then it doesn't matter. Like, it's always like, you have 2 things. You make a baby. Okay, that sounds weird. But like, but you have like your programming and your art, both have to be good. So if you just say, I will take an asset pack, like a game asset pack, you will never achieve a good game just because of that, because 500 people before you have done the exact same thing. I mean, I'm biased because I'm a programmer, FYI.
Yeah, but most of you guys are programmers as well.
The moment you give someone a game made by a programmer or an artist, I think the artist will get more eyeballs.
And sell the game probably more.
But the programmer will have, I think, longer lasting, more engaging experiences.
Do you like programming?
I do.
Okay, like you do you ever get annoyed when you're programming? Like, fuck man, I don't want to be doing this.
Of course, there are always things that are fun to program and things that aren't fun to program. Yeah. It's expected, but I assume it's the same with artists, because if they have to make 500 hair strains or something.
Yeah, or like rocks or whatever.
Yeah, or rocks or like tree number 500. It's like, it depends. But if you're like working on a cool project and you have like an interesting coding challenge, always fun.
I would put it at a B tier.
Yeah, I think it should be lower as the ID for sure.
Yeah, I think it's still crucial, but not as crucial, and it's also gonna be less fun.
Yeah.
I would maybe even put B minus.
I can also live with B minus because I was about to make an argument on why it's actually maybe even less important.
Yeah.
Because there are exceptions to this rule. For example, if you're making a visual novel, your programming doesn't really matter because you have engines for it.
Then your narrative, starts worrying more. But I think visual novels is more of an outlier already.
Yeah,
than
exactly.
most
So that's
genres.
like, there are exceptions to the rule, of course. Like a visual novel, it's like you get an engine, you just focus on art, music, and story. That's it. But for most games, if you want a unique experience, you need to program.
B minus it is. That this next one is one that you probably have zero experience with.
Blender. Well, you mean 3D modeling in general.
Yeah, 3D modeling in general.
I made a sword once in Blender.
Ooh, cool.
I think I showed you, remember?
I think it was horrible.
I think it was pretty alright.
Okay, well, we agreed to disagree. I think that if you're an artist, you may get some fun out of this, but I think actually, in terms of how crucial it is, I think this is a D tier. Because I think you can make, like you said, you can make games, but you always have to program. My counterpoint is, I think you can make games and never have to open Blender in your entire life.
Yeah,
that's what we have literally done. Yeah, asset packs with Unicycle Pizza Time. Yeah. Game was purely, we didn't make a single custom piece of 3D models for that.
The only thing we did was custom texturing.
Yeah, and even that was very limited. Because of that, I would put it at a D or something. It's like, yes, if you can do it and you're good at it, it can help with certain styles of game. If you're making games that are very much focused on a cozy and a super visual style, then yes, it's crucial. But in general, I think programming is much more important than 3D modeling.
There are more exceptions in art than there are for programming. For example, we set the visual novel one, where it's like, oh, but this genre, you don't have to do it. Well, if you take something realistic, the art style isn't that important. Yeah. Unless you go for, like you said, a super cozy or a stylized or a super low poly that isn't Cinti, because otherwise you just buy Cinti assets. Then, of course, those are the exceptions, once again, where it's like you have to do a lot of art. But here, I think it should be below programming, but I don't know if D is justified. Because in the end, I still think unique art can get you a lot of eyeballs. Mm-hmm. The best marketing tool is probably unique art.
But I have another counterpoint for you. The time it takes to do art. Because give a comment down below if you're one of those artists who just put some Bite Me on like a full-on playlist and then you're like modeling for 4 hours non-stop. I think you can do way more like game mechanics in the same amount of time as you do making, making swords is pretty easy, but for that you can also use asset packs, but there's a lot of more complex stuff, and there you can be spending, we saw that when we had our art interns, 1 or 2 days on like a single character. Maybe you find it fun, but objectively, time invested versus what you get out of it is not as strong, I think, as programming as well. That's why I would put it at a D tier.
Because I still think D sounds very rough.
It's rough, but I think I would go for D still.
Rock, paper, scissors. Right now.
Okay.
When do we do it? On shoot? Rock, paper, scissors, shoot?
Yeah,
rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Okay, so it's a D.
D tier.
This is the most elaborate way to determine a tier list ever. Next up, we've gone through the fun stuff at this point. Now, Q&A and, no, not Q&A, QA and debugging. So figuring out, is my game going to shit the bed the moment a player actually interacts with it in a way that I haven't prepared for it? This is one of the...
Not fun, not important, F tier. Never do it.
Not fun, I can understand, 100% agree. Not important?
It's very important, but
It's super important, my dude.
But I just said you do it, so it's not important for me.
Yeah, I think this is one of the things that is inevitable.
So when we talk QA, are we talking also about feedback from others, or is this?
Yeah, I'm gonna be talking about like playtesting, getting other people, like QA could be you take your laptop to your mom and be like, click around, do you understand this interface? And then bug fixing, making sure that the game doesn't keep breaking.
Yeah. Okay, it's very important, it's very not fun in my opinion.
Yeah, because it's like, cool, you get to play your game, but it's like you always keep playing the same thing. If you look at the like food chain of game industry jobs, QA is at like the bare bottom as well. And I love you QA people, but it is something that is very ungrateful work, I think, at the end of the day. But it is also super important, but it's super time intensive, and it's like, it's not fun playing the game. It's like just trying to break every single thing, and even then you're probably going to miss a lot of things, but this is oh so important to do.
The thing I hate the most about it is when you do QA, I have to fix things.
Yeah, because when I do QA, it's like you are a decent programmer, but there is still so much stuff that you just don't account for. Like we were playing recently and like suddenly like one of the characters like flies away in the main menu, and it's like how? But you have to fix those things, and it's not adding new mechanics. You're not adding new cool stuff, basically. It's not fun, but it's super important. I think you can make it partially fun if you have a multiplayer game. I think then QA gets more fun. We had a lot of fun.
It's fun for you guys then, but then I'm like constantly noting things. I was like, oh, this shit is broken. Oh, this shit is broken. It's like, it worked when I played solo. Why is it not working now?
I would put it, where would you put it? Because it's not fun, but it is super important because
I think it's S tier important. I think it's F tier fun.
Yeah, so I was thinking C tier.
Yeah, so just take the average.
I think you're better off if you had 8 hours, you're better off spending those 8 hours bug fixing and playtesting than Blender modeling, for example. That's why I think I would put it in the C tier as well.
I can live with that.
Next up, we get to my bread and butter, trailer editing. We have that little DaVinci Resolve thing.
Okay.
Use DaVinci Resolve, it's free, it's better than Premiere Pro. Just use that one if you do want to edit trailers. This is one that, you know, it's my staple. How many live streams have I done at this point? Roasting your guys' trailers.
Not fun. I don't like making trailers.
Oh, I don't like it either. It's like, I like the thoughts and like the theory behind it, but I don't like actually doing it. You get what I mean? Like I like learning about the things like, oh, the different, like, you know, the cold open and the composition and like,
so it's like the people fantasizing about going to the gym but don't want to go to the gym.
Yeah, but like actually doing it, it gets, like I've done it a few times, but it's something that even I procrastinated a lot.
Oh, I didn't notice.
Yeah. Honestly, the biggest part for me though is not the actual editing, but getting all of the gameplay for the trailer. But on the other hand, it is one of your main pieces of marketing. And I think, you know, it's also, you can make a good trailer. I've done so on live streams where I've start to finish made a trailer in like 2 to 4 hours tops. It's not something that takes you like a week to make. You can just sit down behind your computer one morning and be like, I'm gonna make a trailer today. That's honestly how we did the UPT one. One day I was just like, I've had enough of this. I will make it today. And then 2 hours later, I sent you the trailer, basically.
Yeah, it was like let's hop on a Discord call, let's play the game.
Get some footage.
Recording it,
yeah,
and then grind through it.
I think because of that, I would still put it at like a B tier. Because it is so important, and it doesn't take that much time. So even if it's not that fun, maybe, it doesn't like...
It's good return on investment.
It's a good return on, absolutely, that's the thing.
So you put it above programming and above...
I would put it, but it's like slightly above programming in this case. But I think it's better to spend 4 hours making the trailer than it is to spend 4 hours doing extra bug fixing. Also, honestly, you'll notice this if you're getting gameplay footage for your trailer, everything breaks. It's like, oh, I'm gonna just record this quick 15-minute gameplay thing for my trailer. And then there's like, wait, there's like 15 bugs in here that were never here before. So it's kind of a 2-in-1 special. So I think I would put it a B.
B minus.
B minus as well?
Yeah.
Is it because you don't want it to be better than programming?
No, I think B is just too high.
You think B is too high?
Because I think it's really important for your marketing, but I just really don't like it.
But it's only a few hours. No, we're not doing trial by combat.
Rock, paper, scissors.
I'll put it a B minus.
Next up is setting up your store page. We put the Steam logo here because we're assuming, just like us, you're releasing most of your games on Steam, but it can be in other store pages as well.
Yeah, on itch.io it doesn't go as deep. I think if you do it on Steam, it's actually something that takes quite some time. Hell, Crisostomo has like a free 2-hour course on setting up your Steam page. Go and watch it, it's really good, honestly. Talking about things like getting your capsule art, doing your tagging, writing your description, getting the fancy GIFs to put in the actual description and things like that. You can go very deep in this.
I think in general, it's super important because you can't release your game otherwise. I also like this more than making a trailer. I would prefer to do this over making a trailer.
Okay, but I have a hot take.
Without a trailer, your store page is kind of shit.
Okay, even without that, my hot take. Crisostomo, I love you, my brother, but I think, I'm not a marketing expert, but I think to a certain degree, he overemphasizes how important like your short capsule description is and all of that. Does it matter? Sure, but I think it's very like easy for me and for him to do like one of those Steam page roasting streams. It's good content, it's interesting, but I think you shouldn't worry too much if your Steam page is not 100% optimized. If you have good capsule art and if you have good text, that is honestly more than enough. Have a trailer, but I don't think like, oh, you only have 3 GIFs in your Steam like page description and you should have 5 instead. I don't think that matters that much. Is it fun? Also, I don't know if it's that much fun to come up with like the descriptions.
No, I don't think it's much fun, but I think it's more fun than making a trailer, at least to me.
But I think it doesn't matter as much. That's why I would put this at a C tier.
Yeah. The thing is, it matters less because in the end, what will your players do or potential players do? They will open it, maybe play the trailer, or just browse through your images. Yeah. So the most important thing on your store page is probably your images, your thumbnail or like capsule, sorry, and your short description. Like the long description, that's where most of the effort goes in. Essentially, not a lot of people read it.
Yeah, and even like your short description, it's like, it's easy for me to be like, oh yeah, you need to use more verbs and sell more of the action. I think it's a bit of a thing where honestly, we YouTubers, we like to talk about it because it's easy content, but I don't think it actually matters to that degree. If you're looking for capsule artists, this is my like obligatory plug. We're not earning money of this, but there's a link down below where you can find good capsule artists that we've worked with, that people in our community have worked with as well. Go and check that out. I think that can help a lot. But overall, everything Steam page based, I would put it as C tier. You can do your tags in like an hour tops as well. It doesn't take long to get that 80-20 rule, like getting 80% of the results already.
Yeah, okay, I can live with that.
Another C tier. Next up, we have localization. Praat je goed Nederlands, Thomas?
Soms een beetje.
Yeah. Un petit peu, oui. That's all the languages we can speak.
And English.
Yeah, English, of course. But usually you do develop your game in English, unless you're one of those weird French people.
And there are also Dutch people who do it. I've seen it on projects.
Oh, it's miserable.
Yeah, it's weird. Importance, I think it's really important. Because I think this is something we did pretty okay with Forge Industry, where we were like, okay, we do it in multiple languages. I don't think a lot of indies do it, and I think it's a massive mistake.
Yeah, a lot of indies don't even consider it. Yeah. That's the main thing. I can understand if you're making a narrative-based game with like 10,000 words, yeah, it doesn't make sense to do it, but at least consider having done it. And then an easy thing that I always say is, whilst the game isn't out yet, but you still have that store page up, just say you're going to localize it in a lot of languages and localize the store page as well. You'll show up in the Steam like algorithm, whatever, for other languages as well. And then look at what do the wishlist numbers give you. Is there actually a sudden interest from Korea, from Japan, from wherever? No. Okay, then you can consider it. I don't think you need to go in and blanket, like we made that mistake with Forge Industry, I think, where we said like, oh yeah, we're gonna localize it to Chinese and to Russian and Swahili and all of those languages. That's also not the move. I think there are certain languages that are almost always worth it, like German, English, yeah, of course, obviously. Japanese, Chinese can be worth it just for the massive player base. We've made videos about localization before, you can check out as well.
Yeah, like if you're doubting why this is valuable, just watch our video about Unicycle Pizza Time. Yes. We have such a good example of where localization almost carried the game. Yeah. So that's why I think it's really important, and like we thought it important with Forge Industry, but after Unicycle Pizza Time, I think it really skyrocketed, in my opinion, to holy shit, we gave it attention. Holy crap, can it actually carry a game? Yeah.
With that out of the way, I would put it at the D tier as well.
It's not fun.
It's not fun. It can get very expensive or super time consuming at least. Yeah. If you know, like, oh, we can do Dutch translation ourselves, but for example, Unicycle Pizza Time, we have less than 100 strings in total, which is not that much for a game. There we could use the polyglot game dev sheet and just use ChatGPT for it. That is something that you can't do with basically any game. ChatGPT really quickly falls short in conveying emotion and things like that once you get it localized more. And then you do need to look at, okay, either finding people who wanna crowd localize for you, which is not that easy often if you're a little bit of an unknown, or you have to pay fat stacks to an actual localization company. And at that point, that's why I say, like, don't go in starting development being like, I'm gonna localize into 10 different languages. It's something that you're going to have to look for your individual game. How much interest is there from people and which ones are we gonna do? But I think consider it at least, but it's not going to be a must-have. It could be a nice-to-have. Like, I think also on the other hand, Unicycle Pizza Time, it doesn't mean it will localize to Japanese and suddenly 3/4 of your sales will be from Japan. There's definitely a luck factor. Certain genres apply better to certain games and things like that.
Exactly. But in general, I think more people should consider it and probably also implement it.
But still, I would put it at a D tier.
Sure. let's not make the artists feel too bad.
Nah, now you Blender boys have something else.
Yeah, you have company.
Next up is level design. This is one that honestly we haven't talked about that much on our channel in general because it was something we never had that much experience with until Unicycle Pizza Time. That was the first time where we actually did static level design. Before that we always did like procedural generation or whatever. Is it fun? I think to a certain degree, yes, because level design is one of those core things when you think about game development. Why do you want to do it? Making your own grand big worlds, making your own cool levels, making your own FPS shooter maps or whatever. It's often how a lot of people like get into, for example, game dev, from like custom maps and things like that in CSGO and whatever. I think it's also pretty important.
Yeah, it depends, as always, on the genre.
Yeah, if you're not doing a procedurally generated game, I think this is, even then, like you have to design the room still. I think this is really important, and I think this is also pretty fun. At least I was kind of hating my life because I was doing it in 3 days. I had to make the entire level, which was ideal. But I think this is honestly a pretty high one in terms of fun and importance. This is a good one, I think, to do for your game, and this can have an actual good impact on the game as well. Good level design will go unnoticed to a certain degree, but it's like those mechanics, it will keep people like engaged.
Also, bad level design shows.
Yeah, also.
I think that's something that's very apparent. Like, you take it from granted if it's there, unless someone like points it out, like, oh, you can do this, like cool jumps in X or Y game that are like easy skips. When it's bad level design, players feel it, and I think it really deteriorates the overall experience.
Yeah, I would put it a B.
Do you think good level design is more important than good and unique mechanics?
Yes. Unicycle Pizza Time does not have as many mechanics, but it has a pretty good level design. We really lucked out with that one, honestly.
Yeah, and especially now, we were looking into, someone was maybe considering making a second level, and then he came up with some new level design ideas, basically, without changing the mechanics, and it felt different. Yeah. Because he did some really wonky shit.
Yeah, he was like really pushing more of the...
Yeah, so, okay, I can see that, yeah. Now I agree, now I think about the second UPT level.
Gonna put it at a B tier. Next up, we get to the one that you are by far the worst person that I know on the entire earth for.
Have you ever heard my sound design though?
Yeah, that's true. You're also really bad at that. But your UI design is even better, I think.
I agree, but Magical Girl Guardian's initial UI wasn't good, but it wasn't atrocious.
Didn't I do part of that?
No, I did it almost, maybe you almost completely myself.
Okay, well, all of it is gone by now.
Yeah, true, you like resized everything and so on.
Still, UI design is something that every game has to have. You can't really make a game without any UI. That just doesn't really exist. It's something that you're like, oh, easy, I'll just put some boxes on screen, but often just putting some boxes on screen isn't good enough anymore.
Yeah, we really found that out with For Gens 3. Spoiler alert, it's a very UI heavy game, and then we suck at UI design, so we got...
Then you get into the whole thing of UX as well, the user experience. If you're making a game that's just like new game, level select, options, exit, pretty easy then, but I think the moment that you have things like inventories and all of that, UI gets really important, but it's also really easy to fuck up, and I think honestly, it's not that fun to do.
No, I don't like it as well.
Actually, it's fun to do the first 20% because it can feel very gratifying.
True.
That is like the thing. Oh,
you feel like you make a lot of progress.
Yeah, you start making that first prototype and like a week in, you're like, okay, let's add the UI, we add the main menu, and it feels suddenly like, oh, you have a full-on game. I think we have this even with Magical Girl Guardians right now a bit. To get that UI like good and not just use it as a way to procrastinate making the actual game, that's when it gets a lot harder and a whole lot less fun. And when you want to do things like making more special art styles and things like that. For example, Unicycle Pizza Time, the UI is bare bones stock because it's a game where it doesn't really matter. If you have games where UI is actually really important, it's part of needing to be stylized, you need to make custom assets and custom graphics for it, there's a lot of 2D art as well. I think then it falls apart pretty quickly. Once again, shout out to all artists who just put Bite Me games on repeat whilst they are spending 4 hours drawing an inventory or whatever.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Also dealing with responsiveness, same like web design, like, oh, suddenly there's a guy on an ultra wide who wants to play the game and everything is fucked up.
16 by 10 and
yeah, Steam Deck
for low resolution then as well, because you have 16 by 10 for high resolution.
Yeah, because if you do that wrong, then it's like, oh, I can't actually press the back button because the back button is off screen. We've had that happen before as well.
I mean, even with our roasting stream, there were multiple games that just didn't work properly on a 16 by 10 display. I think it's important depending on the genre and not fun, so I don't think it should be too high. Because there's like, if you make a management game, it's very important, the UI.
What do you say about C-?
Sure.
I think bug hunting and...
Would you put it over unique art? Well, Blender in this case, like...
I mean, technically it is unique art as well.
True. But I mean, like, you put it over 3D modeling then?
Yeah, definitely. I think, no offense 3D modelers, 3D modeling is an important thing as well, but I think for a lot of people, you can live without 3D modeling a game. And I think you can also live without localizing, worst case, but I don't think you can live without spending time on your UI.
Okay.
So that's why I would put it as C-. It's not fun really. It does take quite some time as well, but it is still important. There are tools like the Game UI database that can help you,
good tool.
But still even then, getting all of that, and also another miserable thing, controller support. Makes you want to blow your brains out. If you suddenly have like a very UI heavy game and it's like, oh yeah, I want to have Steam Deck support, I need to be able to navigate through it.
I don't want to think about Forge Industries UI with a controller.
Yeah, it's
nightmare fuel.
Yeah, I don't get, Factorio has controller support.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's so difficult. They got like a 1 hour talk about how they did it.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, okay.
C-.
Next up is balancing. You of course see the nice scale. You make a game and you make it work. Like for example, now Magical Girl is in the state it's currently in, is working, is very well mechanically done, but it's very unbalanced. You have like one character that one-shots basically everything and now has 5 bullets, and the other one is like needs 4 shots, has 1 bullet to kill something, so not very balanced. I think this is important because first of all, this is really ties in with your overall experience of the game. An unbalanced game, first of all, makes some people just want to rage quit, or you have like one meta. The idea of a game is to have fun. And if you have an unbalanced game, it's almost never fun.
Yeah, because you lose that psychology of, hey, if I choose this item, I would lose out on something else. And it's like, oh, which trade-off am I making? I think the thing here is you can make balancing fun. Because, okay, if you just go into it, we did a lot of balancing for Forge Industry as well.
Yeah.
And I think if you can do stuff like, hey, exporting it to Excel and you can make some formulas for it, it can get very easy to just change a variable and see like the entire effect on your game.
Yeah, that's how we did in Forge Industry, spoiler alert. Like I made an export function, took all of our data, exported it, we could see the values, and then we just made sure that items that we had did multiple steps to create, that they were more profitable than just one step.
Yeah, but I think that would be something that we also want to do for Magical Girl Guardians, where you can have things like, oh, calculating DPS per character, like how much damage do they do on average per second and things like that. If you're just going into it and you take your scriptal object or you take your enemy and you just add like health increase by 10, it's gonna be miserable. At that point, you're doing balancing wrong. Maybe that's something we'll make a video about at a later date once we've gone through it for Magical Guardians as well. Balancing is an important thing. And I think you can make it fun to immediately, if you don't balance directly in-game, but if you balance in the spreadsheet, so to say, and then you just apply all of it at the same time, and then it can be very gratifying to see all of those changes happen at the same time. It's also very important. Is it gonna be the most fun thing in the world? Absolutely not.
Yeah, it's also, I think a lot of people hate it because then you're talking about a lot of numbers and most people don't like math.
Yeah, and it's like similar to like bug testing and like balancing and things like that. At the end of the day, balancing is just bug fixing, but it's numbers instead of code.
I mean, it's one way to look at it.
It's important, but you're not adding anything new to the game, so to say.
Yeah, that's like one of the things I hate the most with bug fixing and balancing. It's like, it doesn't feel like you're moving, but you're actually making so much progress.
Yeah, if you look back like 2 weeks to like an older build. I would put it at a B- as well.
Let me take a look.
Or a C+. I think it's better to have a good balanced game than a fully buggy game.
Yeah, I agree. I think you can have more bugs if you're just well balanced than not balanced and no bugs.
Yeah.
So I agree with that.
I'm gonna put it as C+, actually. Is that good?
I mean, C+ and B- is the
no,
same, no?
It's kind of different still.
I don't know
it's
the
a little
difference.
Bit different. So I think looking at this list, I don't think we made that many big mistakes. No. Looking at this, but I do think that we can definitely make a sequel to this. So leave us some of your thoughts down below as well, things like marketing and whatever. Sound design, music design, all of that, but I don't want to make this a 2-hour video. I think this is something that definitely we can revisit in the future when you guys also have some ideas. Let us know what you think of this formula as well, how we determine what tier something is, because sometimes you guys disagree with that as well. If you think we're absolutely dumb, leave a comment down below. It boosts engagement, which is good for the algorithm. And apart from that, what is your favorite thing to do when working on your game? Do you absolutely love 3D modeling? Or do you absolutely love localization for some reason.
Or you hate making IDs.
Yeah, hate coming up with ideas. I think that is honestly a thing. I've heard that before, where people hate coming up with game ideas because of the pressure that is put on them of coming up with something good. I think there's, a lot of things you can discuss about it. If you're new here, we make 2 videos every week talking about game development, the things that we learn along the way. So if that is something that you're interested in, be sure to head down below and subscribe. It makes me happy, and you get videos delivered directly to your subscription box. That's all we had to say. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!